Number 7, we have a table, and they tell us it's a polynomial function. They got some x, y in the top, and we've got the question, which of the following must be a factor of f of x? What does that mean, a factor of f of x? What could we also say? What word could we reasonably substitute, kind of, sort of, in there? Perhaps.
I don't know.
I'll accept a word that starts with an R or also a Z. Maybe a root or a 0.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that's easy.
So when we say the word 0 and we're talking about x and y, are we talking about x being 0 or are we talking about y being 0? What are we looking for?
X being 0. Y being 0?
We're talking about y being 0, and then the question would be, at what x value is y equal to 0? And we've got a graph here. Right, something like this, you might see. So obviously this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis. So the question is when we're talking about the roots of the graph, the x is equal to some number, right? That'd be like negative constant, right? And then this would be some number, positive constant. The question would, obviously the y is 0 here, right? This is y 0. So the question becomes, at what x value do we have a y equal to 0? That's what we mean when we're talking about roots and we're talking about zeros of an equation, right? So we look at our table and we see, I see x0 f of x3, and then the other one that we might look at is x4 f of x0. So obviously after what we just said, we're looking at the x4 f of x0 part of that. So the next question becomes, well, we can look at the answer choices and we can see that only one of them involves a 4. So at this point, pretty much C. But the reason I want to point something out here is that it's x minus 4, because remember, the question is, at what x value does y equal 0? If we plug in a positive 4 for x on answer choice C, we get 0. And if you remember back from, I think last week we touched on this, the zero product property, which is where we have like, what if I have A times B, that's an awful B, times C. If any one of these three things is equal to 0, then the whole thing's equal to 0, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's called the zero product property. And that's where we can say something like, if we ended up with like x minus 4, and like, I'm just making this up at this point, x plus 2 equals 0, right? That would mean that x equals 4, if you plug that into the equation, that we would get a true statement, because you'd get a 0 here, and times anything would give you 0. So that is what we're saying when we're saying that x minus 4 is a factor of this polynomial. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know that's quite the roundabout explanation, but it seems to keep tripping people up. So I feel all right going a little bit wordy on that one. What is next?